Hello Raptors fans and welcome back to Raptors Report. Today we are going to be discussing the Toronto Raptors game against the LA Lakers, which they played last night. But before we get to that, I want to talk about the in-season tournament. Because yes, the Toronto Raptors begin the in-season tournament tomorrow with an eminently winnable game against one of the worst teams in the entire league, the Milwaukee Bucks. The Toronto Raptors are 2-9, and while things aren't exactly rosy here north of the border, things are even worse down in Milwaukee. Even though they've lost one fewer game than the Toronto Raptors, they are in a completely different situation. They are not rebuilding. They're not trying to capture the flag. They are trying to keep their generational superstar, Giannis Antetokounmpo, happy, and they are trying to make it work with Damian Lillard, and things are not going very well there. So the Toronto Raptors have a chance against the Milwaukee Bucks tomorrow night. But I want to talk about the in-season tournament itself. The in-season tournament is new. Last season was the first in-season tournament. Of course, you know, the Pacers and the Lakers squared off in the in-season tournament cup final, and it was fun. I thought it was a very smart idea, but it does have its detractors, and it had even more detractors prior to it actually happening. So in the summer leading up to the season last year, the in-season tournament was a big topic of conversation. How is it going to work? It was confusing. Why are they doing this? This doesn't make any sense. They're just regular season games. Nobody's going to take it seriously. There were a ton of complaints. But in my opinion, I was always a proponent of the in-season tournament. And the reason is because I saw how in Europe and European football and in international football, the cup format is something that works. Say if you're in the Premier League, you can play in UEFA Champions Cup if you qualify for it. There are local cups. There are all sorts of different side quests, essentially, that you can compete to win. I think that's cool. I follow the Raptors. They are my favorite team. They have been my favorite team for decades. I love watching them play. And yes, of course, a championship is the most important thing for a team to strive for and improve for. With that said, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is fun. Is it enjoyable to see your team compete for something? Even if it's not the top prize, getting a prize is cool. And people will say like, well, only the Larry O'Brien trophy matters. An NBA championship is the only thing. What makes an NBA championship worth attaining? It's difficult. You are playing against other very good teams. There is importance and history attached to it. There are special moments within people's lives where they watch something cool happen during the game, and it excites people who enjoy watching competitive basketball. That's it. There's nothing else that's special about it. If teams are playing one another and it's exciting basketball and players are playing with purpose and trying to achieve something, it will generate its own special moments. Last season, the games were worth watching. They were very fun. And the single game format is a lot different than 7-game series. And one of the reasons that other tournaments are very successful and very exciting, the Super Bowl, March Madness, is because it's not a series of games, best of 7, and the outcomes are a lot more up in the air when it's in that situation. Anybody has a chance to win, which kind of makes it a little bit magical. The NBA playoffs is much more deterministic. The better team over the course of a 7-game series will win the 7-game series the vast majority of the time. NBA games where teams get many opportunities to score, there's less luck, in my opinion. That's one of the reasons that good teams and the best teams in the league, and when you see the top seeds in the NBA, the chances of those teams making it to the finals are a lot greater than in other sports where, you know, Cinderella stories can happen more often. So having a tournament where it is a little bit less deterministic and a bad team can get lucky or hot, that's kind of exciting. I wouldn't want to make the finals that, but having a tournament format within the season is one of the reasons why I think that this in-season tournament cup has potential, and I enjoy watching it. And as for the Toronto Raptors, let's talk about their chances within the in-season tournament. I've already mentioned one team. So the Toronto Raptors drew probably the weakest group in the tournament. They will be playing the Milwaukee Bucks, of course, the Indiana Pacers, the Miami Heat, and the Detroit Pistons. Those are the teams that they're facing. Every single one of those teams is below 500 except for the Pacers, who are 500. The way that it works, they each play each other once, and then whoever finishes with the best record moves on. That is the group stage. So if they finish first in their group, they will move on to the single elimination games, and then there's one wild card for each of the two conferences. So if they come in second, but they're better than any of the other teams, then they will move on. So it's interesting to watch. The Toronto Raptors will probably have to go 3-1 or better to win the group, but I'm not going to say it's impossible. I think that they have a chance, and it should be an interesting thing to aim for. Even if they want to capture the flag, this is only a couple of games that they have to win here in order to get into the cup. I think that's another element of the cup that's kind of interesting, is that it adds this little fun tournament inside of the season. You can compete for it and perhaps even win it while winning the lottery. So you can win twice. I think that that's kind of fun. And that's the in-season tournament. I'm very interested in hearing what you guys have to say, but we're going to be moving on to the player evaluations. Why don't we start with a bounce back performance? Jakob Poeltl never really leads these lists, but I think we should mention him first because I think he was the best Toronto Raptor last night. Jakob Poeltl had 5 points against the LA Clippers, and in the back-to-back against the Los Angeles Lakers, he had 14 points, 10 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, and only 1 turnover. And he was easily the best defender on the Raptors. He was on the receiving end of a few highlights. He got his shot unceremoniously rejected by AD, and he kind of slapped AD in the eye, and AD had to leave. So that wasn't great, but in terms of playing good defense, he was certainly the best player on the floor for the Toronto Raptors. When he is in the paint, he is not an elite shot blocker. He is not a guy that is going to scare the living daylights out of guards coming into the lane, but he is always around the rim and he is always providing help, and players shoot worse when he is around them, around the rim. And he is a big enough body that other large centers can't bully the Toronto Raptors. When he was off the court, because he had to sit for a while, like they could have used him for large stretches during this game because they were kind of getting pieced up by Jackson Hayes, just because he was bullying the Toronto Raptors while Jakob Poeltl was off the floor. And it was because it was a back-to-back, and you can't play him too many minutes. Most 7-footers who aren't Nikola Jokic are on a time restraint just based on, if you're 7 feet tall, like 250 plus pounds, running around is tough. So you have to limit his minutes a little bit. I thought he did a very good job rebounding, playing defense, scoring inside, setting up his teammates, setting good screens. I thought that I would highlight Jakob Poeltl in this game because he's usually later on in the video where you kind of give him his props, but I thought that I'd start with him because he is such a valuable member of the Toronto Raptors when he's playing well, and he had a bounce-back performance. So I think Jakob Poeltl has been arguably the best Toronto Raptor overall this season. You may disagree. Maybe you want to leave a comment. Tell me who you think is the best Raptor this season. But I think that he is a guy that the Toronto Raptors would be absolutely sunk without. Like, of course, they've lost 9 games, but they would not be in half of these games if it wasn't for Jakob Poeltl. Speaking of which, we'll talk about another guy who has been keeping the Toronto Raptors afloat, probably their second best player last night, Ochai Agbaji. Ochai Agbaji had 16 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, and a block. He guarded LeBron for the majority of the game, did a good job on LeBron. As I said, he is not shutting guys down, but he is doing the job that he is supposed to. He is a smart defender. That is a key component. A lot of defenders rely on their physical tools to be able to stay attached to players, and they can make mental mistakes. Even when they have all of the tools in their toolbox, the best tool of all is upstairs, what's between your ears, understanding what you are supposed to do in the moment, what another player is thinking and countering it. There are so many elements to defense, and Ochai Agbaji clearly thinks the game very well. And LeBron James did have a good second half of the game, but he started the game with only 5 points in the first half. And Ochai Agbaji when he was guarding LeBron, he did not explode for a lot of points. Ochai Agbaji, unfortunately, was also a victim of Anthony Davis. He got posterized by Anthony Davis on a pretty sick pass from LeBron in that LeBron AD pick and roll that has been so deadly for the Lakers against the Raptors. But other than that, he was fantastic. He, again, 4 of 5 from 3. Also, not just from the corners, he hit right from the top of the arc. He got a kick out and just let it fly, and it swished. It's about confidence. Ochai Agbaji last season would not have been taking 5 threes in one game. He is clearly emboldened by his role in the offense and his ability to play. He is clearly feeling himself. The game is slowing down. Things are getting easy for him. He is able to play within the flow of the offense. He had a very nifty basket last night where he passed it to Davion Mitchell, did a give and go into the corner, and splashed a 3. Really effortless looking offense from him. He had another solid dribble drive. I am really, really impressed with Ochai Agbaji, and he has been arguably the best Raptor this season. I don't know if that's hyperbole. I mean, him, Jakob, probably RJ Barrett, but it's between probably those 3 players. And Grady Dick has been good. He has made a big jump in his sophomore season, but I don't know if I'm right there yet to say he's been one of the best Raptors, especially when you consider the defensive shortcomings. So let's talk about Grady Dick, because he had a pretty good game too. 14 points on 10 shots, 2 of 3 from 3-point range, 1 rebound, 3 assists, and 1 turnover. Grady Dick is still an incredibly creative finisher. He had a gorgeous looking runner where he just softly kissed it off the top of the backboard and it just dropped straight through. He has an amazing touch. And then in the third quarter, he hit back-to-back threes. He can clearly shoot the ball and play with purpose and make shots. I got to mention that he almost posterized LeBron. That was sick. If he managed to yam it on LeBron in the first quarter, they probably would have sent me to the hospital. My head probably would have popped off. But he has been kind of underwhelming in the second half of this game and the last game. I feel like there was 2 things that happened. First of all, second night of a back-to-back, and he runs a ton. I'm sure fatigue played a part in why he wasn't popping off in the second half after his great first half. And I think it's partially gas tank things, especially in this game, but I also think there's a bit of an element of him being frozen out of the offense a little bit. Emmanuel Quickley is obviously incorporating himself back into the team, and the pecking order has not yet been completely established, and who is getting the shots and how has not been clearly established. But another guy is Davion Mitchell. I feel like, I don't know if it's him freezing out Grady Dick or just not being able to make the correct play. So I need to see more from our guards. I feel like Grady is a super easy assist. I think that if you reward him for running off of those screens, he's going to run off of them a lot harder. I think that you can get this guy going and feed him the ball maybe a little bit more in the second half. But I thought he had a pretty good game. On defense, he did not have a good game. Every time LeBron matched up against him on switches and whatnot, it was a tough cover. A guy like Grady Dick gets matched up against LeBron, he's going to figure out a way to score on him. So yeah, I think that Grady still has a lot of work to do on the defensive end, unfortunately. Speaking of which, we'll talk about RJ Barrett. And RJ Barrett has had a very rough stretch of games, and not just from an offensive standpoint. He had 18 points on 15 shots, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 turnovers. The shot selection leaves much to be desired. 1 for 7 from 3. That seems like an easily correctable problem. I understand the process. He wants to be an inside-out threat. If they're not guarding him out there, then you have to let it fly. I think 1 for 7, that doesn't sit very well with me. I think he took too many threes. I think he needed to drive the ball a little bit more. Even if there is a shot blocker at the rim, you got to give it more of a try. Of course, legs could have been a factor there as well, but he didn't have a great game against the Clippers either. 4 turnovers. If you're the lead ball handler, you're going to generate turnovers. if the other team is playing good defense, and I think the Lakers played pretty good defense, but you still can't give him a passing grade. 4 assists, 4 turnovers, that's not very good. More than anything, okay, I think that he did an okay, not great job, but not a complete failing grade on offense, because he did get inside and score and draw fouls. He was 7 of 9 from the free throw stripe, so that was pretty good. The defense, we got to talk about the defense. RJ Barrett's off-ball defense is becoming a big problem. When you play against teams like the LA Clippers and the LA Lakers, so James Harden, one of the best playmaking guards ever, LeBron James, the best playmaking forward ever, if you are out of position, they're going to make you pay. And there was one very clear example I can just show you where LeBron is being guarded by Immanuel Quickley on the perimeter, and I thought Immanuel Quickley was doing a pretty good job in isolation of stopping LeBron from scoring, okay? So it's not like Immanuel Quickley was getting abused on the perimeter. It's not as if LeBron required, especially the type of double that RJ Barrett was giving LeBron, where he kind of just slowly walked over to LeBron, leaving his man, Austin Reeves, who had been having a fantastic game, wide open on the perimeter. Not only is Austin Reeves a very good three-point shooter, he is also a great driver to the rim. He is a threat to score. He is a threat to pass. LeBron James simply waited. He dribbled the ball until RJ Barrett was sufficiently out of position, and then he passed it to Austin Reeves, and it was an easy basket. This happens over and over and over again. There are all of these little issues where he can't recover to his man. One of the big issues is when he ball watches, tries to provide help, and then the guy he's supposed to be defending changes position, and RJ Barrett doesn't know where to close out to. That happens a lot too. He needs to get better, and one of the ways to do that is just simplify the game. Yes, help defense is important. You want to provide help, but if you are doing it wrong, it hurts the team more than it helps. So they got to figure out a way to make the defensive coverage for him easier so that he can stop being so detrimental on that end. I have to stand on my soapbox here because I have been glossing over it because he has been doing such a great job on offense, but it is becoming a glaring problem. I gotta talk about it, so I don't think he had a very good game. Next up, Immanuel Quickley also did not have a very good game. 12 points on 15 shots, 1 for 4 from 3, 1 rebound, 4 assists, only 1 turnover. But he was holding the ball a little too much. There was one possession against Dalton Connect where he was on the perimeter and he was trying to isolate against Dalton Connect, which is a decent idea, but he didn't do a good job. I think Connect was playing far off of him. He could have shot the shot, and he probably should have because it was a low shot clock situation. He tried to drive in the lane. He had to settle for a contested baseline jumper. It was not a good shot. And he did kind of disrupt the offense in a negative way where he would try and make something happen instead of moving the ball or making a quick decision. So I'm going to attribute it right now to him still trying to find his place within the offense, still being rusty. I think that his first game was good. I think he made some similar mistakes in the first game, but he was aggressive and he was looking for his shot more and he was more effective. It's easier to gloss over some of the problems when a player is scoring very well, which he did in the first game. Last night was different. He was not effective, and the mistakes that he made hurt the Raptors offense. Next up, we're going to truncate the bench section because I've been going in depth on all of the different players. We're just going to talk about the main contributors off of the bench, first of whom is Chris Boucher, who had another great game. 18 points, 6 of 9 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds, 2 offensive, 3 assists. He had some sick dimes. He is a great transition ball handler somehow. It looks so weird when he's dribbling the ball on the break, but it works. And he had a sick dime to RJ Barrett, and he does what he is supposed to do as the Raptors' 6th man, which is come off the bench, shoot. He was much better from 3 this game, which is why you have to give him kind of a long leash. On offense, you want him to shoot the threes because feast or famine, threes are extremely volatile, but he does shoot a pretty good percentage, and it does help the Toronto Raptors when they're falling. And I feel like he does enough outside of that that you can forgive it when he's a little cold. So I thought he had a really good game. And defensively, there are some issues. I'm not going to lie. He's not a fantastic defender, and he makes mistakes on that end, but I'm willing to overlook it just because of what he kind of does for the team. But let's talk about Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell did not have a good game. I feel like the move to the bench has been a big negative for him, because I think that he is trying to change his role from what he was doing in the starting lineup, which was being a connector, playing hard defense, shooting catch and shoot jump shots, and scoring in transition, and then limiting the amount of shots that he took outside of that, not dominating the ball. I think that's all kind of gone out the window when he's gone to the bench. I think the Toronto Raptors have asked him to try and be more of a playmaker, be more of the primary ball handler, and it just has not looked very good. There's got to be some way to make him more effective off of the bench. Of course, I've spoken about Kelly Olynyk being the primary playmaker off of the bench, but who knows when he's coming back. They've said a couple of weeks, but it's all very murky at this point. Who knows when he's going to return? Yeah, the bench, other than Chris Boucher, just did not do a good job, really in any way. They didn't have an effective ball game, and when the Toronto Raptors are shorthanded and they're playing on a back-to-back, they kind of really need the bench to step up. They did that against the Clippers, so positive aspect there. Last night, not so much. And let's just talk about the game as a whole. Anthony Davis leaving the game seemed to give the LA Lakers a big spark. He, of course, left the game because Jakob Poeltl inadvertently smacked him in the face, hurt his eye, and then the Lakers just ran through LeBron for the entire second half. He and Austin Reeves had something going. They were playing two-man basketball at its very best. Austin Reeves was phenomenal. He was making shots. He was driving to the rim with purpose, passing the ball, flopping. The guy is a masterful flopper. He is always trying to trick the referees, so I guess you've got to give him credit for that. But he had 27 points. He was phenomenal. LeBron James, of course, had a triple-double, and the Raptors looked overmatched. One of the biggest issues that they had was when Jakob Poeltl was off the floor, Jackson Hayes went nuts. He had a huge game, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 3 offensive, and a block. They kind of got bullied by him. When the Raptors have their juice and they're making hard cuts and shooting free and easy and they're running their sets, they look like a good team. But when they're not, and maybe the ball sticks a little too much in the hands of certain players, the 2 point guards, 3 point guards, let's say, because Jamal Shed also kind of had the same problem, Davion Mitchell, Emmanuel Quickley, they kind of made the ball stop moving, and it did not look very good. And to his credit, even though RJ Barrett didn't have a great game, he's a willing ball mover and he is trying to set guys up, and it's pleasant to watch, and it's why I like having him be the guy with the ball in his hands. But it was a dispiriting game, especially towards the end of the game. The Lakers just put it out of reach. It was not close at the end of the game. And although there were some standout individual performances, Jakob Poeltl, Ochai Agbaji, and to a certain extent Grady Dick, I think that it was just not one of the best games of the season, and perhaps one of the worst. In any case, I am very excited to watch the Toronto Raptors play in the in-season tournament. It's a little bit of a pick-me-up. I also think that when they play against the Milwaukee Bucks, I know that people are watching the Raptors lose over and over and over again. The Bucks are horrible. The vibes on the Raptors last night didn't look great, but the vibes are immeasurably better on the Toronto Raptors. You can tell that these guys are playing for one another and they are trying to win. The Bucks, it is completely discombobulated. It looks toxic. It looks uncomfortable. There's clearly huge tension between Dame and Giannis. The rest of their team either is too old or not good enough. So they don't look very good, but that doesn't mean that the Raptors are going to win. You can clip this and use it against me, but that doesn't mean the Raptors are going to win. The Raptors are not a very good team. They're missing some key pieces, and they're playing the Bucks in their building. So this is a winnable game. They could pick up their first road win of the season here. I'm going to split it down the middle. I'm going to be a complete coward. I say it's 50-50 that the Raptors win the next game. I could see them easily doing it. If you've watched the Bucks, you'll know exactly what I mean. This team is completely mind-screwed, but they do have Giannis, they do have Dame, and they are in their building, so who knows? In any case, that is the video today. I hope you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on the in-season tournament? Do you think that I've got it right? Is it a fun new addition, or is it a stupid gimmick? Please let me know here in the comments, and also on Twitter and Blue Sky. where you can reach me at Raps Report. It's the same on both. If you haven't gone to Blue Sky, I am posting there. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.